So we do want to listen very carefully to our next presenters. We are very privileged to have them with us today. Coming up next is Commissioner Stan Vanderwerf. Before I read his bio, I'd like to say how much we are thankful for the commissioner. As you know, the Pikes Peak SBDC is part of El Paso County, and we are part of the El Paso County Economic Development. So it's really important to us that our commissioners are here and supporting us, and they all do. And we're lucky that Commissioner Vanderwerf also serves on the SBDC Advisory Board and has been a major supporter of us. So thank you very much for that. With that, Stan is going to talk about, Commissioner Vanderwerf, we're so close, I call him Stan. Commissioner Vanderwerf will be talking about local and national collaboration, something our ecosystem and our community is working on very carefully. Commissioner Vanderwerf serves District 3 on the Board of County Commissioners. His district encompasses central and western El Paso County, including the town of Green Mountain Falls, the city of Manitou Springs, the towns of Palmer Lake and Monument, the west side and downtown areas of Colorado Springs, and unincorporated western areas of the county, including Ute Pass and areas south of Cheyenne Mountain State Park. Welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, everybody. You know, we have a great small business development center here. I don't know how you feel about it. I think it's the best in the state. Yeah. And this is a wonderful conference. This is so important for small businesses here. And I tell you, you know, I'm up here to talk a little bit about the importance of local and national collaboration, because there are different skill sets and different abilities in different places. And when they work better together, it's very, very important for succeeding in protecting us from cyber attacks. And, you know, some great examples of that, you all have started to see some of that. But we have some great local speakers, like closing up today is Vance Brown, the CEO of the National Cybersecurity Center that's located right here in Colorado Springs, an example of local. And then, of course, Margie Graves, the CIO from OMB, who is was your speaker this morning, but because of flight delays, as you all know, will be speaking with you this afternoon. So these are two examples of us broadening this reach so you can all see some of what's going on at the national level and some of what's happening at the local level. Now, part of my background is 28 years of service in the Air Force, and I was never an operator. I was always in program management, procurement, acquisition, and R&D. Some of the R&D was really, really incredible. And one of the program offices that I ran was what was called a super program office with 750 products in its portfolio, and this was the Air Force's electronic warfare and avionics programs. The interesting thing about electronic warfare is it's essentially cyber in free space, in the airwaves, with radars and counter-radar systems and using layman's term, fuzzbusters and things like that. And it's actually been a cycle of activity that's been ongoing since World War II, where people have built radars and people have built countermeasures to radars, then people build counters to those countermeasures, and then the counters come and the counters come and the counters come, and we've been through hundreds and hundreds of rounds of counter and counter in an ongoing, unending battle that has never stopped since World War II to protect our national assets from these kinds of products. This is very, very analogous to what's going on in the cyber world today. So there's a lot of similarities, and actually there's a lot to learn from what the United States as a nation has done in electronic warfare, because you'll see the similarities and the parallels. I know also that the Chamber of Commerce is going to be supporting a meeting with Margie Graves Monday evening with several CIOs of several public agencies in the local area, and this is another example of national and local cooperation, which is so, so important. And I want to talk about some of those examples, and the first one I'm going to talk about is the National Security Agency. Now, you know, it wasn't too long ago, maybe 15 years ago, when you couldn't learn anything anything about NSA. It just was not something that you could find out about. But on our local chamber trip on the cybersecurity team, and I was one of those members, we visited the NSA, and to my amazement, they have opened up quite a lot, and they are deeply involved in the national level of cybersecurity protection, protecting all of us, and many of you just might not know. So I actually have a couple of pages here. I promise you it's public domain information because I pulled it off their website. Now, their primary role is to protect and defend national security systems. And they run a 24/7 cybersecurity operation that watches for and counters threats, but they do it at a national level. So if you are in the cybersecurity business, you're well aware of some of these national threats that have taken place. And I'm going to give you some of the titles of some of the resources they have on the website here. But they're actually doing that, playing that role on behalf of all of us. We just might not know about it because that part of NSA, we don't know what's going on, okay? But resources for cybersecurity professionals, you should go on their website and look up cybersecurity at NSA. And let me read some of these titles. So this is an advisory from April of 2018, the Drupal unauthenticated remote code execution vulnerability. Now, I don't even know what that is, okay? But if you're a cybersecurity professional, you do. Another one is the .NET Nuke remote code execution vulnerability, January of 2018. Mitigations for key reinstallation attacks against Wi-Fi protected access, October of 2017. Best practices for keeping your home network secure. So how about that? They're actually helping individual citizens from some of the resources on the website. That was just published in September of 2018. A guide to border gateway protocol best practices, September also of 2018. And cloud security basics, August of 2018. So if you have, they also have some other sections that are interesting. They have a resources section for students and educators. So if you are a student or educator wanting to get into this business, there's actually a little bit on the NSA website for you to look at now. And they also have an enormous number of cybersecurity professionals as careers, and they are out looking. So if you want to get in this business, NSA is a possible location for you to have a career. Perhaps not something you would have thought of before, but I think it's very, very interesting. Okay, so now let's go to the Department of Homeland Security, because they do an enormous amount of work, and you might be more familiar with what they've done regarding cybersecurity. I pulled a few pages from their website. In addition to the kinds of things you would expect from a national agency, they have a cybersecurity overview, a cybersecurity strategy, and so forth. But there's some other interesting resources on there that I want to kind of bring up. One is how to combat cybercrime. To reduce theft, fraud, and abuse. Another area is protecting critical infrastructure. And another area is cyber incident response and how you respond to incidences. And they even have certain programs. This one is a national effort to raise public awareness on how to recognize cyber vulnerabilities, and it's called Be Cyber Smart. And that's a national Department of Homeland Security program. A few more things on here. Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act of 2015 and how it is being implemented at the national level. If you're in this business, you're going to want to understand that because you will have requirements to comply with it. And I'll finish up that they have blogs as well. And this is one of the blog articles. DHS leads the implementation of email authentication services across the federal government. So there's some interesting information that you can find on these kinds of websites. Now, it's interesting also, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security actually has a separate section specifically for small businesses. So in this area, they have what's called the U.S. Department of Homeland Security C3 Voluntary Program. It's a small and mid-sized business toolkit. They also have resources to help you create a custom cybersecurity plan for your small business, working in concert with the Federal Communications Commission. So there are these kinds of resources on this page. They also talk about a thing called the National Cybersecurity Alliance. They have a small business presentation. I guess we've got some folks from here that are, all right. Oh, that's awesome. All right. I might be helping to lead you into this. Thank you very much. Other resources on here, they have a presentation that's for small businesses specifically, but they also have sections for entrepreneurs. And they actually have a social media guide as well to help protect social media assets from cybersecurity attacks. And they also have cybersecurity information while traveling on the road, which I think is very, very interesting. If you haven't been to these locations, you should take a look. One other thing that the Department of Homeland Security has is a program called Stay Safe Online. Some of you may know about this, and as you know, cybercrime can be really, really difficult to investigate and prosecute because it often crosses legal jurisdictions and even international boundaries. Sometimes it's state actors, and sometimes it's just people trying to steal money. Additionally, an offender may disband their operation and reform, and that some of them have the capability of doing that very, very quickly, and it's very hard to locate them because what is a lead disappears real quick. So in this Stay Safe Online, they talk about who do you contact if you feel you are a victim of a cybercrime. And the first one, and this may be obvious to you, is actually contact your local law enforcement. The city police or the sheriff's office are two of those resources here in our local area. Local law enforcement is getting more and more involved in dealing with these kinds of things, and there are starting to be dedicated resources associated with this. But there is also the Internet Crime Complaint Center, and this works in partnership with the FBI and the National White Collar Crime Center, which is a component of the Department of Justice, and you can actually file complaints online right off the website for that. And one of the things they ask that you do, and it's not always that easy because very often you want to clean your computers right away of anything that looks like an attack, but they ask you to do the best you can to collect and keep evidence. They may need this later to prosecute that crime adequately and properly. These are things like log files and social media messages and printed or electronic versions of electronic copies of emails. Of course, you have to protect your computer first, so do that first. So if you've got to clean, do that. But if there's a way to hold on to this information, you actually may be contacted by the FBI because you submitted something online there. So those are some of the national resources that are available. And I want to kind of close very briefly to talk about some of the things that El Paso County is doing with regard to cybersecurity protection, because we are all affected, and El Paso County is doing a lot right now as well. And we've really stepped up our game in the last year and a half or 2 years. We now have an information security office that has 7 network operators and 3 security operators. We also, in that information security office, we have a network operations center, a compliance center, and a security operations center, and we're actively involved in vulnerability management, threat detection, prevention, securing our emails, encryption, incident management, and forensics. So we've got a very active and robust program, and it's really, really important. I'll tell you why in just a minute. We also have a lot of compliance mandates and things that you might not think about. Our IT department protects our criminal justice center, and we have criminal justice information services security policies that we have to comply with. We also have health insurance policies that we have to work on. We have a lot of personal information from the citizens in El Paso County, and we are required by law to protect that. We also have payment card capabilities because people pay for their driver's licenses and other kinds of things, and we must adequately protect those things. So you may or may not know it, but El Paso County has an enormous amount of work and effort in protecting this kind of data, and we're really no different than so many other businesses in our community that has to protect this kind of stuff. We also have a lot of strategic plan goals that we've defined, and we're acting on those. To give you a sense of the size of El Paso County and how much we have to work on, we actually have 35 business units. These are things like the sheriff's office, the district attorney, the coroner, a separate office for emergency management, our assessor's office, our treasurer's office. It's a total of 35 business units, basically. And we have 2,640 plus employees whose computers and assets we need to protect. We use a total of 73 IT employees across El Paso County to do that work. And we get almost 25,000 annual service requests to support the folks that are using these computer systems. So those are kind of some of the examples of what we have to do in El Paso County, and it's very, very relevant and very important. It may have come up earlier this morning, may come up later this morning, but there are several attacks that are very notable that have taken place at local and state levels, and I'll just name them. You may know of some of these attacks, but the Colorado Department of Transportation was attacked, which was a $20 million cost to recover, some pretty large number like that. City of Atlanta was recently attacked. Mecklenburg County in North Carolina, Davidson County in North Carolina, Adams County in Wisconsin, the Baltimore 911 system, and the San Francisco transit system are examples of recent attacks at local levels where there's been substantial damage and recovery efforts that were required. So it is important for El Paso County to do its job in information technology security because we need to protect us and protect you from those attacks. So those are really important kinds of things. You know, we also are well aware of a lot of phishing attacks that we receive, and I'll give you one example of something that we have procured. It's called Mimecast. Some of you may know what it is, but it helps protect us from potential phishing attacks. And so we are investing, and we are investing in big ways to make sure that we are adequately protected. I'll give you one last example of that investing. I think the budget request, it's not been approved by the commissioners yet, but this will be over the next 30 days. We've got over $1 million in that budget just for Microsoft product upgrades. So these are examples of what we are doing in El Paso County, and it really, really is important. So I hope that I've given you some interesting food for thought for a few minutes here as you're leading into lunch, and I'm looking forward to seeing a great list of additional speakers and listening to them. I'll be able to be with you here until about 2 o'clock, and then I'll have to move on to some other tasks. I am exceptionally proud of our Small Business Development Center for holding this conference. I am thrilled that we have so many attendees. It says to me, this county, the citizens here, and our businesses know about the importance of protecting yourself from cybersecurity attacks. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to getting to know more of you as time marches on. Thanks so much.